This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
Game in the league, and we know what this weekend, is the anniversary of, and obviously he played a significant role in the Immaculate Reception and all that. So just wanted to make sure we pass along our condolences on Franco's passing. On to the Steelers. Obviously, this is it's a really tough football team. Mike has done a tremendous job for a long time. Have a great deal of respect for the way they play, how hard they compete, how well prepared they are. Physical group on all three phases. It's going to be a big challenge in that regard. They do a really good job. Last week was a great example of it. Controlling the entire game. Run the ball well. Every third down's third and short. They're the best team in the league, and 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 by far. Not even close to the next best team. Defense very stingy against the running game. Do a good job of taking advantage of offensive mistakes, turning the ball over, and then giving their offense a short field. Got a good return game. The kicker's very good. So this is a team that's obviously it's been in a lot of close games, very similar to us. That has a lot to play for, and this will be a big challenge on the road, and it's always a great atmosphere there. Played there a number of times, and this should be a fun atmosphere to play and compete in. So get ready for Steelers.
Josh, this game has a way of sometimes reminding you how big it is and historic it is, especially a day like today. Did you ever meet Franco Harris?
I did not. I want to say I've seen him multiple times in Canton over the years, just because I was a fan when I was a little guy. And obviously I'm very well aware of his career and what he's done and what he meant to the Steelers organization. But no, I did not have the good fortune of meeting him in person.
Just out of curiosity, I know you weren't alive when that play happened, but growing up as a football fan, do you have recollections and memories of that and the great moments?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, there's a handful of, I would say, iconic plays, and, that they all have a nickname, and, they're going to be unforgettable forever. And, and so that certainly was one when I was growing up, obviously a fan of football, and, I lived in Ohio, so I wasn't too far away from Pittsburgh. So, there's obviously a classic play in Steelers history. Certainly plays a role in our history for sure. So, I mean, it was the celebration, this week of those moments. Obviously, the game of football has a lot of them, and it'll be fun to be there, obviously, to celebrate the anniversary, even though it didn't go in our favor at that time.
In these kind of cold weather games, how much of the game plan depends on you going out before games, seeing the conditions and what you can and can't do?
I mean, obviously you need to be ready to adjust if something determines that you need to adjust. Fortunately for me, or unfortunately, maybe, I've been in a whole bunch of cold weather, East Coast, late in the year type games, and, whether it's temperature, wind, snow, rain, whatever it is. But the thing, I mean, look, we have no control over the weather. We're not playing the weather. We're playing the Steelers, and, our preparation is going to be solely focused on them. If something in the weather would dictate, 50-mile-an-hour winds or something like that, obviously you need to be ready to adjust accordingly. And there's a lot of things that would go into that. But clearly, when you play in these kind of games, you have to be ready to do it. It doesn't mean that you got to, go in and assume that those things are going to happen. But I think preparation the next 3 days is going to be important, just in case we needed to adjust.
Enjoyed these kind of games in the past?
Say it again.
Have you enjoyed these kind of games in the past?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is real. This is football, and I think part of this is just, handling the conditions, being able to play in the conditions, being able to think in the conditions. Certainly, when you have wind and elements that could contribute to situational plays, the kicking game obviously gets affected first. So there's a lot of decision making that goes into it. You know, I enjoy the challenge of handling those things and you know, competing in them, but you certainly got to do them right.
Organizations that you've been in the past, dealing with those conditions, practicing in them was pretty easy. You guys could prepare for it, just go outside and deal with it. But here, it's not quite the same. So how do you, is there anything that you can do other than just do it in your mind? You know?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can't simulate 0 degrees here. Although I asked, see how cold we could get the indoor. You know, they said it might shut the building down if we got it down to 0 or 10 degrees. So, you know, I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, it's I've had the reverse, you know, where you're practicing in cold weather and then you go south or west and you have to deal with, you know, temperatures that you haven't practiced in 3 months or been in 2 months. You know, so it's, you know, I mean, there's nothing we can control. I think really it's up here mentally. You know, you just have to understand that it is what it is. We don't play in those conditions or practice in them regularly. And so, you know, we're just going to have to go and get acclimated quickly to it, and football's football.
These last 5 have been called close, crazy endings and whatnot. Is it more frustrating or encouraging that the margin in this league is that close each week? I guess it depends on win or lose, but
yeah,
the margin's so close each week.
Yeah, neither for me. I don't really. To me, I just think each game is its own entity. You know, you got to get ready to play it, coach it, and adjust if you need to. I think that the nature of the league is that there's a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches, you know, that we get to compete against. And, you know, it's hard to, you know, I think the league has proven over and over and over and over and over again, it's very difficult to get away from people, you know, because there's a lot of parity. And, you know, and that just speaks to the, you know, I think the volume of good players and good coaches that there are in the league. And, you know, you just got to play 60 minutes. We obviously have learned that over and over again this year. And being ready to do that and not assuming that, you know, you're going to go and get away from anybody. And I think that's the way that you have to think nowadays. So I don't spend a whole lot of time being frustrated about it. I just think that's the nature of competing in the NFL today, and I would expect nothing different this weekend.
On the whole, especially during this last stretch, these last few games, and statistically, it seems like you guys have taken some steps in the right direction defensively. Where do you think you guys have made the biggest strides on that side of the ball late in the season?
You know, I think, you know, over the course of the year, we've tried to continue to, you know, harp on the things that are really important to playing good team defense. You know, fundamentals, playing blocks, tackling, playing with your proper leverage and coverage, defending the deep part of the field, pass rush, coordination, you know, discipline, communication. There's no secret. There's no one thing that we could just say, hey, if we do this, then all of a sudden everything will magically be great. That's just not the game of football. It's not that way in any phase, offense, special teams, defense. So we've just tried to continue to, you know, focus on the things that fundamentally you have to do them right in order to be sound, you know, and I think our guys have really continued to work hard at that. I think the chemistry in our group, you know, we battled through some injuries all year long, which every team does. And so I think the more those guys get to play together, the more communication is between the same guys. I think the more comfortable some of them feel together. So there's not one thing. I think it's just continuing to try to get better at the fundamental aspects of playing it. And I think we've had some good days and some better days. And then we obviously have things we need to improve still.
To a really grinded out cold weather game like this, how fortunate are you to have a really tough running back like Josh Jacobs, and how much pride and what's been the reaction you've noticed from him after becoming a team captain?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, these games late in the year, you know, running the football, being able to try to gain control of the line of scrimmage is important. JJ's obviously done a great job all year for us in his role. He'd probably be the first one to tell you that, you know, there's a lot that goes into that, and certainly the guys up front, the tight ends, the fullback, the receivers blocking for him have done a good job, and obviously that'll be an important part of this weekend. but he's behaved like a captain all year, and so the fact that the captains felt strongly enough about him, and I would say his leadership, his commitment to the team, the things he's done to try to help us win all year long, I think that speaks volumes in its own right. But he hasn't changed. He's continued to do the same things to try to help us win, and that would shock me if he did.
Any update on Alex Bars and Dylan Parham?
Hopeful that we're gaining here. Again, we'll see a lot more tomorrow, I think, when we're actually out in the grass. But both guys are working really hard. They're going to be around in the walkthrough today. So hopefully, if we can have a few good days here, there's a shot. I think that's the best I could say now.
Andrew Billings kind of figure into that same sort of.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep. We're trying to be we're trying to get as healthy as we can here for the last few.
You talked about the kicking game being most impacted, obviously, by conditions. How specific do you want, your special teams people to be with you before the game? Like, is it we're good from 52 this direction, 54 this direction? Are you that specific, or is there ranges that you guys talk about?
Yeah. I would say that's every week we have those conversations, and I think knowing exactly what it is and what it isn't is really critical. On a week-to-week basis, we need to know what their range is, how where they're able to make kicks from. Same thing with our side, going both directions. Depending on if it's a crosswind or not, which hash mark we may or may not want the ball on. Those are obviously important. I'd say punting the ball is a whole different conversation, because, again, if you're with it, it's one thing. If you're against it, it's another. If it's a crosswind, it could obviously impact it significantly too. Ball handling, is obviously paramount in a game where wind is a factor. So there's a lot of things, that would go into each decision that we make, and then each kicking play. Because, if it becomes that type of a game where field position is really going to have a lot to do with the outcome and the result of the game, you don't want to be losing by 10 or 12 yards every time you exchange the ball. So, those are the things I was referring to when I say, like, there's a lot of decisions and a lot of situational plays, a lot of special teams plays that can quickly impact the game, when weather becomes a factor. So this will be a good challenge for us. I think one that our guys are eager to handle and play in.
On Sunday, there was that one fourth down pass play. I don't know if Darren got in Devontae's way or what happened on that.
The third down play? Yeah. The one where Darren came back, and honestly, it really wasn't anybody's, fault. I think Darren thought that the ball was held long enough that it was kind of almost like a scramble situation. So he was just trying to do the right thing. He thought that it was like a scramble play, and so he was kind of coming back this way. Certainly that wasn't the intent of the play, but that wasn't a mistake, I would say. I think he was just trying to be a football player.
I know it's not the top of your mind. Obviously, you have a game to prepare for, but Pro Bowl rosters are getting announced. What does it mean to a player, to a team, to have their guys recognized in that way?
I mean, I think it's obviously a great honor for those guys. I think that they work hard all year long to try to earn the respect and admiration of their peers and the people in the league that vote for that, the coaches, the players. I think, individually that probably means, it could mean different things to different people. I would also tell you that I've probably never been around, guys that get nominated and voted in that don't think that their teammates have a ton to do with the fact that they were voted that way. You know what I mean? So it's the greatest team sport in the world, and people are going to get obviously nominated and voted in and all that, and it's a great accolade individually. I think a lot of our guys would, if they're fortunate enough to make it, would be the first to tell you that there's a lot of other people that have something to do with that. Their teammates have certainly impacted them.
You guys all good? All right, let's go.
You guys ready to go for the 0 degree?
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.